Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Antikoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radhakala Shandidi Dham Ki Jai. Gangamaya Munamaya Ki Jai. Tosti Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the simple devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. Mother Ishwari Kumari, can you hear me in the back over there? Okay, you can hear me. You can sit down again. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Where is he?
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. O Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Together. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet nashtaprayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nesthiki. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. This morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 4, Chapter 8, verses 71 to 80. This is the very amazing, beautiful pastime of Dhruv Maharaj. And Dhruv Maharaj recently met Narad Muni in the forest after being advised by his mother to go to the forest in search of the Supreme Lord. And so Narad Muni found him in the forest and gave him instructions on how to attain the Supreme. And then we saw that Narad Muni went back home to the home of Dhruva Maharaj, to the palace, and instructed the king as well. Made the king realize his mistake that he had committed against his 5-year-old son. And now we see that Dhruva Maharaj has reached the forest, the main spot where he is going to perform his devotional service, his endeavor to call out to God, to request his attention. And so Dhruva Maharaj has arrived at this spot now, and we will see how he performs his extremely intense austerities and his extremely intense call of love for Krishna. Today we will do this a little differently. We will first focus on verse 71, do the Sanskrit and everything, and then gradually we'll do verses 72 to 80. So, verse 71, yes. Tatrabhishikta prayatas thamoposh. Oh, sorry, please repeat. Thamoposhya vibhavarim samahita paryacharad rishyadeshena purusham. Please repeat. We'll do one male and one female. Atrabhishikta prayatas thamoposhya vibhavarim samahita paryacharat rishyadeshena purusham. Tatrabhishikta prayatas thamoposhya vibhavarim samahita paryacharat rishyadeshena purusham. Tatrabhishikta prayatas thamoposhya vibhavarim samahita paryacharat rishyadeshena purusham. Men. Tatrabhishikta prayatas thamoposhya vibhavarim samahita paryacharat rishyadeshena purusham. Synonyms together. Tatra, thereupon. Abhishekta, after taking a bath. Prayata, with great attention. Tam, that. Uposhya, fasting. Vibhavarim, night. Samahita, perfect attention. Paryacharat, worship. Rishi, by the great sage Narada. Adeshena, as advised. Purusham, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation together. Elsewhere, Dhruva Maharaj, having arrived at Madhuvana, took his bath in the river Yamuna and observed fasting in the night with great care and attention. After that, as advised by the great sage Narada, he engaged himself in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Can someone read the purport? Oh, sorry. Um, well, I think I made an error. We were supposed to focus on verse 72. Um, so, bonus Sanskrit. Well, anyway, yeah, we'll go to verse 72. But before that, on verse 71, you can stay there. Who remembers? So where did Dhruv Maharaj go to perform his austerities? Madhuvan. And what is the significance of Madhuvan? It's a dham, yes. But which dham? What is Vrindavan? It's one of the 9 forests of Vrindavan. And Madhuvan is one place where Krishna appears in all 4 yugas. In Sat Yuga, which is the current time where Dhruva Maharaj performed his activities, he appears as Prishni Garbha to give darshan to Dhruva. In Treta Yuga, in the time of Ramayana, he goes in the form of Shatrughan to kill a demon called Lavanasura. In Dwapar Yuga, which is Krishna's own incarnation, Krishna and Balram, they have childhood pastimes in Madhuvan. And there's a story that once in Madhuvan, after Krishna left for Mathura, the gopis were feeling this deep separation from Krishna. And Balram was extolling the glories and the pastimes of Krishna to the gopis. He was explaining them. And Balram himself became so absorbed in these glories of Krishna, explaining it to the gopis, that his own color became blackish. His own color turned from white to black. And in Madhuvan, even today, there is a Dauji Balram temple where there is a black deity of Balram. So, and then in Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, they also visited Madhuvan and they enacted the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So all 4 yugas, Krishna went to Madhuvan. So this is a very potent, very powerful place, very powerful dham. It is said that in a place of worship as powerful as Madhuvan, the veil between the material and the spiritual world is really thin. And so it is easier to call out to Krishna. It's easier to connect with Krishna. And so Dhruv Maharaj went to this place as advised by Narad Muni. The key word here in verse 71 is, it comes Rishi Adeshena. Rishi Adeshena Purusham, that by the instruction of a Rishi, of a spiritual master, Dhruv Maharaj went to this place to perform austerities. And as we will see in the following verses, the acts performed by Dhruv Maharaj are so terrific and so terrible, actually, so difficult and so impossible that we cannot imitate those activities, we'll see. But the principle is set in the first verse, Rishi Adeshin, as instructed by his spiritual master. So because Dhruva was instructed by Narad Muni to perform those activities, he was able to do it. And for us, the instruction is we follow our spiritual master, our line, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada, and what they have said, the austerities, the principles, the activities that they have advised us to do. And it says in verse 71, when Dhruv Maharaj arrived, he took his bath in the river Yamuna and observed fasting. So the very first day when he arrived at the dham, he performed fasting. And it is said in the scriptures that the first day you arrive at a spiritual place or place of worship, you should fast. It is advised. But these days when devotees, they go to a place of worship, they call in advance, Prabhu, please keep prasadam ready for me. And, before time, they arrange prasadam and a place to take rest. And they eat also on the way to the dham. So, Dhruv Maharaj rightly followed the scriptures and fasted on the first day he arrived, Madhuvan. Verse 72. I will say the Sanskrit and then we'll see the translation. Triratrante kapita bada rashana atma vrityanusarena masam ninyerchayam harim. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. For the first month, Dhruva Maharaj ate only fruits and berries on every third day, only to keep his body and soul together. And in this way, he progressed in his worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Who would like to read?
Kapita is a flower which is known in Indian vernacular as kayata. We do not find an English equivalent for the name of this flower, but its fruit is generally not accepted by human beings. It is eaten by monkeys in the forest. Dhruva Maharaj, however, accepted such fruits not for luxurious feasting, but just to keep his body and soul together. The body needs food, but a devotee should not accept foodstuffs to satisfy the tongue in sense gratification. It is recommended in Bhagavad Gita that one should accept as much food as necessary to keep the body fit, but one should not eat for luxury. Dhruva Maharaj is an acharya, and by undergoing severe austerities and penances, he teaches us how to execute devotional service. We must carefully note the process of Dhruva Maharaj's service. How severely he passed his days will be shown in later verses. We should always remember that to become a bona fide devotee of the Lord is not an easy task, but in this age, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, it has been made very easy. But if we do not follow even the liberal instructions of Lord Chaitanya, how can we expect to discharge our regular duties in devotional service? It is not possible in this age to follow Dhruva Maharaj in his austerity, but the principles must be followed. We should not disregard the regulative principles given by our spiritual master, for they make it easier for the conditioned soul. As far as our ISKCON movement is concerned, we simply ask that one observes the 4 prohibitive rules, chant 16 rounds, and instead, indulging in luxurious eating for the tongue, simply accept prasad offered to the Lord. This does not mean that with our fasting, the Lord should also fast. The Lord should be giving food stuff, which is as nice as possible, but we should not make it a point to satisfy our own tongue. As far as possible, we should accept simple food stuff, just to keep the body and soul together to execute devotional service.
It is our duty to remember always that in comparison to Dhruva Maharaja, we are insignificant. We cannot do anything like what Dhruva Maharaja did for self-realization because we are absolutely incompetent to execute such service. But by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we have been given all concessions possible for this age. So at least we should always remember that neglect of our prescribed duties and devotional service will not make us successful in the mission we have undertaken. It is our duty to follow in the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaja, for he was very determined. We should also be determined to finish our duties in executing devotional service in this life. We should not wait for another life to finish our job.
Thank you. Can we go to the synonyms? So in this verse, here, Dhruva Maharaj, it's his first month in the forest performing devotional service and activities. And Triratrante, it is said every 3 days he was eating fruits and berries, natural food. And even that, it said Atma Vritti. It's very, very important. Atma Vritti means just to preserve the body. Actually, ideally, we should eat only that's amount of food or that quantity of food that is sufficient to sustain the body. We should eat to live and not live to eat, as it is commonly said. And according to Ayurveda, which is the science of health, the Vedic science of health, it is said that all diseases begin from the stomach, which means that the food we eat, our eating habits, ultimately determine how our health will be. And so one should eat for Atma Vritti, preservance of the body. There's an example that when we have a car, we put gas in the car so that the car can run to drive the car. It's not that we drive the car so that we can use the gas, right? So similarly, we eat so that we can function this body can operate. We don't live so that we can eat more and more. Excessive eating becomes a hindrance to devotional service because it makes the body dull, sleepy. Pushes the body towards the lower modes of nature. And so to be able to be fresh and awake and aware and enthusiastic, it's important that we have regulation in our eating habits. And so that's what Dhruv Maharaj did for the first month in the forest. We can go to next verse, 73. And then we can pass along and read the translation one by one. But actually, you can open each verse, and then I'll speak, and then we can go to the next one.
In the second month, Dhruva Maharaj ate only every 6 days, and for his eatables he took dry grass and leaves. Thus he continued his worship.
First month, fruits and berries for 3 days, once in 3 days. Now in the second month, can you go to the synonyms? In the second month, Dhruv Maharaj, now he's eating dried leaves and grass. And that also Shashte, every 6 days, once in 6 days. And Maitreya Rishi, who is actually describing this pastime of Dhruv Maharaj, he uses the word Arbhaka, innocent boy. He's feeling compassion for Dhruv, that this small 5-year-old boy is following such regulation in eating, is doing such tapasya, such austerity. He's eating once in 6 days. And what is he eating? He's eating shirne, parna, adibi, leaves, fallen leaves, and grass, dried grass. And shirne means dried. He's not even plucking fresh green leaves from the trees. He's eating dried leaves that have fallen on the ground. So he's not even endeavoring that much. Even that is a waste of time, to pluck fresh fruits, vegetables, leaves from the tree. Even he's finding nutrition in the dry. Whatever is fallen down quickly, once in 6 days, takes that, eats it, and moves on. Even that plucking is a waste of time for Dhruv Maharaj. He's so determined to achieve the Supreme Lord as soon as possible. Like, he cannot wait. He cannot even waste time to endeavor to get his food. And what he's doing is, we can see first once in 3 days, now once in 6 days, he's decreasing his appetite or his bodily needs, and he's increasing his bhajan. He's increasing his devotional service. He's not reducing his eating just for the sake, but so that he can do more devotional service, focus more on devotional service. And now it's been 2 months, he did not even sleep. He has just been practicing, he's just been meditating on Lord. We have so much prasadam to eat, and we get enough rest, and still we don't increase bhajan. Still we act lethargically. So this is something we can learn from the character of Dhruva. Verse 74. can just, yeah.
In the third month, he drank only water. In the third month, he drank water only every 9 days. Thus, he remained completely in trance and worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was adored by selected verses.
Can you go to the synonyms? Navame, Navame. Now once in 3 days, 6 days, now once in 9 days, Dhruv Maharaj has given up eating. In the third month, completely gave up eating. Even eating is now become a waste of time, and he has achieved a state where his body is no longer desiring food. He is going deeper and deeper into his sadhana, into his meditation and absorption, so much so that his hunger has completely come under his control, and he's only taking water once in every 9 days to sustain himself, the bare minimum, so that he can use all of his energy and time in meditation on Krishna. It is said that when we attain higher stages of bhakti, and we see this in the personality of pure devotees like Srila Prabhupada, Goswamis, that as we attain higher stages of bhakti, the natural needs of the body diminish. The need to sleep, the need to eat, they diminish naturally. And according to science, you cannot make sense of it, because science says you need 8 hours of sleep. But we see these devotees sustaining on 2 hours of sleep. So these natural needs diminish. And it is also a test in our own personal life, devotional life. We can see, am I still addicted to sleeping, eating, and these natural needs of the body, or are they diminishing gradually? Am I increasing my devotional service? And verse 74, in the end it is said, samadhina, in trance. He is drinking water once in 9 days, and he has already in the third month now attained this deep state of samadhi. Samadhi is understood to be the last stage in the yogic process. Samadhi is when you attain trance, when you attain absorption in Supreme. And so in the third month itself, Dhruva has attained that because of his extremely intense practice. Next verse.
In the fourth month, Dhruva Maharaj became a complete master of the breathing exercise, and thus he inhaled air only every 12th day. In this way, he became completely fixed in his position and worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Dwadash, once in every 12 days. Now he has entered the fourth month of his austerities, of his practice, of his hunt for the Supreme Lord. And he has given up water even now. No food, no water. He is only sustaining on breathing, and that also one breath once in every 12 days. It's really difficult to understand. When I was reading this, it did not make sense to me. How can it be possible that someone breathes only once in 12 days? But it is said that mystic yogis, those who are extremely advanced in mystic yoga process, they can slow down their breath so much that it extends their duration of life. So Dhruv Maharaj became the topmost mystic yogi at this point, that he could breathe only once in 12 days. And that was all he was doing to sustain this body. He was becoming extremely detached to himself, to his body, the needs of his body, because simultaneously he was getting more and more attached to the Supreme, more deeper and deeper into absorption in the Supreme. And that made him eligible to do this. It is also said that Jesus Christ, there is understanding, I think it's called Aquarium Gospel, something like that. So there is a book, and there's understanding that Jesus Christ spent a good time in India learning from the yogis. And he also learned some of these mystic yoga practices. And so it is said that when he was crucified and when he was then buried, he also stopped his breathing. And so he was considered dead, but he was not actually dead. He stopped his breathing because he learned that yogic process. And that's what we see Dhruv Maharaj doing here. He was breathing once in 12 days. And then it said, Dhyayan Devam Adharya. Dhyayan, meditating. He was meditating on the Lord. It's very interesting. It said Dhyayan and then Adharayat. Adharayat is translated as worship, but the word Adharayat comes from Dharan. Dharan means to attain, to capture. And so first, Dhyayan, he's meditating on the Supreme. He's making his effort. And then he has Dharan, the Lord. He has captured the Lord in his heart. So the Lord is now, he has come and sat in Dhruva's heart. And he has become fixed in Dhruva's heart. Next verse.
By the 5th month, Maharaj Dhruva, the son of the king, had controlled his breathing so perfectly that he was able to stand on only one leg, just as a column stands, without motion, and concentrate his mind fully on the Parabrahman.
So it appears that Dhruva Maharaj was standing on both legs until now, and then he lifted his one leg and stood still without moving on one leg. Next verse.
He completely controlled his senses and their objects, and in this way he fixed his mind without diversion to anything else upon the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Maitreya Rishi here is now finally describing the internal state of Dhruv Maharaj. He was now explaining the external state, his eating, sleeping, standing on one leg, breathing, and so on. And now he's explaining the internal mental state of Dhruv Maharaj. He completely controlled his senses and their objects, and he fixed his mind without diversion on anything else. What's going on internally in Dhruv Maharaj, his consciousness, is that he withdrew his senses. Like a tortoise withdraws his limbs. He withdrew his senses from everything else and totally absorbed all his attention on the Supreme. He was no longer aware consciously that he is Dhruva, he is a son of a king, he is here to ask something from the Lord, he is performing austerities. He was not aware of his surroundings, trees, animals, forests, rivers. He was so withdrawn in his consciousness that there was one pointed attention on the Supreme Lord only. And it said, Kinchana aparam. In the Sanskrit it says Kinchana, which means nothing else. He could not see anything else. Dhruv Maharaj was not able to see anything else around him. It does not mean that his eyes were not able to see anything else, but his heart was not able to see anything else. Because it is said that there is a God-shaped hole in your heart, and Dhruv Maharaj successfully filled that hole with the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord was captured in his heart. And so, because God was present in his heart, alive in his heart, and so Dhruv Maharaj's heart was completely satisfied. And so even though his eyes may have seen other things, but his heart could not see anything else. There was no other desire, nothing else to be attained, nothing else to be desired. He was satisfied only in his meditation and absorption on Krishna. This reminded me of also what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in Shikshashtakam, Shunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me. That in separation of Govinda, the entire world seems shunya, empty, vacant. There is nothing of meaning in this world. And that's what Dhruv Maharaj was feeling. Nothing else is more important because Govinda is in his heart now. Next verse.
When Dhruva Maharaj thus captured the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the refuge of the total material creation, and who is the master of all living entities, the three worlds began to tremble.
Next.
As Dhruv Maharaj, the king's son, kept himself steadily standing on one leg, the pressure of his big toe pushed down half the earth, just as an elephant being carried on a boat rocks the boat left and right with his every step.
Next and last verse.
When Dhruva Maharaj became practically one in heaviness with Lord Vishnu, the total consciousness, due to his fully concentrating and his closing all the holes of his body, the total universal breathing became choked up, and all the great demigods in all the planetary systems felt suffocated and thus took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Maharaj Dhruva, he became so extremely powerful by his austerities that he became one with the universe in the sense that he was able to influence the universe with his activities. And when it is said that Dhruva Maharaj, when he closed the holes of his body, it seemed like the entire universe was choking, was suffocating. That influence was felt by the whole universe. And Srila Prabhupada explains that the significance of this, he says in the purport that what it really means is that if there is only one pure devotee in pure Krishna consciousness, he can change the total consciousness of the world into Krishna consciousness. So a pure devotee has such influence on the whole world that they can influence the world and all living entities. So this description of Dhruva Maharaj, we see, we understand that although we cannot imitate what Dhruva Maharaj did, these extreme austerities, but at the same time, the value of austerities cannot be neglected. And we see that in the examples of Goswamis, examples of Srila Prabhupada. If you pick any devotee from history and any devotee that you look up to, you will see that they have performed some or the other austerities in their life. Something, some sacrifice, some personal, voluntary, endeavor, sacrifice. And that the reason is not that Krishna becomes happy to see us suffer, but it is a way to show Krishna that I care about you, that I care less about my body and my comfort, but I care more about you. I want to do more for you. I'm serious about attaining you, achieving you, seeing you, loving you. And so Krishna becomes very compassionate and very filled with bhav when he sees this, when his devotees take voluntary suffering for his pleasure. And so we can aspire to live a life of such intense devotional service, of such practice, that at the end of life, then we can confidently recite this verse from Ishopanishad, verse 17, which says, Vayur anilam amritam athetam bhasmantam shariram Om krato smara kritam smara krato smara kritam smara. Let this temporary body be burnt to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. We can take questions or comments.
Bro, I'm really appreciating this class, how you went through, and it really dove into deep how Dhruv was performing these austerities. And I was thinking, it's actually firing me up. Like, I can push myself a little bit further. And I was like, okay, well, I can't breathe, every 12 days or, but I probably can go to bed. I probably could go to bed at 9 o'clock probably get up at 4 o'clock, like Srila Prabhupada's encouraging us to do. So it really encouraged me to think about my own, austerities of how I'm regulating myself and even my eating. And I feel like a little bit more charged even to move forward in my austerities. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada acknowledges this in verse 72 purport. He says that we cannot imitate this. It's not possible for us. But he says that the principle is to be followed. The principle is Rishi Adesh, instructions of the spiritual master. The Dhruva is following. And he says, Prabhupada says in the purport that we should try to follow at least the liberal instructions by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and by the Acharyas. So he's acknowledging that the instructions that we have are so liberal, actually. Waking up early, try to eat prasadam, and try to chant 16 rounds, follow regulative principles. This is nothing compared to what our predecessors have done. And so if we cannot do this bare minimum, then how can we expect any change in life?
Here's my question. First I was thinking, I have all these comforts. I got this nice house, I got heat and all these things. And I still can't even come to austerities of maybe waking up a little bit early or going to bed. Anyways, I was thinking, are these really beneficial to us? Are our comfortable living situations a benefit, or are they actually holding us back possibly from taking steps towards a more austere life that's a beneficial of our service? What's your thoughts?
I think comfort isn't necessarily what may pull you back. It's not bad that we have a comfortable situation, but dependence on that and attachment to that in the sense that if it makes us lazy and lethargic, if that comfort, the availability of that comfort makes us lazy and lethargic, and if we are so attached to it that in a situation we cannot change that, or we cannot sustain without the availability of that comfort, then that could be an indication that it's holding us back. Because if we don't practice and that's why we have these things like Ekadashi, we have things like temple worship services, so that we all get a opportunity to get out of that comfortable situation we've created around that our life, and once in a while practice some discomfort, practice some voluntary austerity to come out of that comfortable situation. We have, we do book distribution, we do preaching, we have temple morning program. It is encouraged that devotees come at least to live close to the temple, so that, we don't only stay at home. Yes, only staying at home all the time and, not engaging in other activities of spiritual life, not taking those voluntary steps of discomfort, of austerities, will 100% make us complacent, lethargic, hold us back in spiritual life. And so if we follow these liberal principles, these liberal austerities given by Shastra, by Guru, then we will keep reminding ourselves of the fact that this is not a permanent situation. This body, focus on this body and focus on the comforts of the body is not the goal of life. Yeah. Thank you. Krishna and then Mother Sacharya. No, after you.
I was kind of wondering, I guess in my head I had a bit of a speculation that Dhruva's austerities are kind of geared towards what the Yuga Dharma was of that age. In Satya Yuga, the Yuga Dharma is meditation. So whatever was favorable to meditation, he would do. If breathing is interrupting your meditation, cut the breathing off. If eating is interrupting your meditation, cut the eating off and stuff like that. And then I guess my speculation is that, yes, he is doing these austerities in this category, but our austerities are going to look different in that our Yuga Dharma is Sankirtan. Our Yuga Dharma is Lord Chaitanya's movement reaching the masses, and in every town and village the holy name will be shared. And so Srila Prabhupada had a different style of austerity in that it was to support the Yuga Dharma of Kali Yuga, not the Yuga Dharma of Satya Yuga.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess our goal, this is my question, Dhruva Maharaj's austerities were pointing towards the goal of total samadhi, but we have a different goal, and so we would also have different austerities in that sense?
Well, the goal is the same in all yugas, which is self-realization and developing love of God. And that was Dhruva Maharaj's, well, his initial goal was to obviously get something material, which is get a palace. But then as we learned through the months and through the austerities, then he withdrew his senses, and he forgot that what was his actual initial purpose, because he was satisfied in absorption in the Supreme. And so you're right, our Yoga Dharma is different, where our Yoga Dharma is Sankirtan, preaching, and congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And so Prabhupada says that we cannot imitate those austerities, but we should try to follow the same principles that Dhruva Maharaj followed. So like you rightly pointed out, anything that is a hindrance to the Yoga Dharma, you try to minimize that. And Dhruva Maharaj did not artificially cut down eating or sleeping because it was a hindrance, but because he was increasing his absorption in the Supreme, that those needs naturally diminished and went away. So it's a combination of voluntary austerity plus natural detachment from those things. And so for our Yoga Dharma, we can, similar principles like the needs of the body, too much engagement in sense gratification, in fulfilling the hankerings of the body, like eating, sleeping, they become a hindrance in Sankirtan Dharma. And so taking voluntary efforts like fasting once in a while, eating less, not eating after sunset, waking up early in the morning, taking a bath in the morning, these simple austerities or these simple principles will help us, minimize the hindrances in spiritual life. And gradually doing this as a matter of duty, as a matter of commitment, then we will also become detached from these needs. Mother Sacharya.
So when I hear this pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, I was trying to understand the dynamics of the palace and how Dhruva actually got out in the first place, because he's the son of a king, King Uttanapad, and palaces usually have gates and all kinds of security. Of course, his mother, Suniti, gave her blessings, but I was wondering, King Uttanapad must have had a huge security team and personal bodyguards. So I'm thinking, how did little 5-year-old Dhruva escape the palace?
Well, in my reading, I don't think that description is explicitly mentioned anywhere, but if I'm to speculate, I would say that every system has its loopholes. Even today, from the most secure prisons, prisoners escape. And Dhruva Maharaj had the advantage of having a really tiny body of a 5-year-old, so he could sneak out, probably being unnoticed. Probably his mother helped him somehow, sneak him out somehow. We also see Narottam Das Thakur, he escaped from his mansion, his father's mansion, which is also similar, lot of guards, and his parents had really, captured him in the home, but somehow in the middle of the night he escaped, he left for Vrindavan. So I think it's just somehow Krishna helps, gives you intelligence.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. It's 8:32, so we will end. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.